LS400. Regarded as one of the greatest cars of all time by most of its fanatics, this particular one has 242,000 miles on it. They have the 1UZ engine, and this was Lexus's flagship vehicle. Toyota supposedly spent 1 million man-hours into designing this car. Was it worth it? Toyota is certainly known for its reliability, and Lexus has, well, lasted as a brand, and they sold quite a few of these cars, and there's still a lot of them on the road today. There's a huge fan base and following for them. They're exceptionally well-built, well-engineered, well-thought-out cars. Not to mention, with a decent-sized V8 with plenty of power, a luxurious ride, and frankly, most of everything you could ask for out of technology from the 90s, it's no secret why people are in love with them. So, let's take a look at this one. Looking at the interior, we can see some general wear and tear, which has truthfully aged pretty nicely for what it is. We of course have the cracking of the steering wheel a little bit. Now, my dash isn't cracked at all, which is actually pretty awesome. However, they do become cracked at high mileage. Again, this is at 240,000. I really like this material that the headliner's made out of. It's very soft. You know, it got a little dirty. This looks like pen marks to me. Generally speaking, you know, that's held up with time. The plastic has done well. I have this crack on the door card. That's actually not the first time I've seen that crack. I saw it on another door panel at the junkyard. I don't know if that was common. This I know was common because every LS400 at the junkyard had this issue where there's supposed to be a little wood grain cover and then this thing, your cup holder that pops out. Now, the reason that this breaks is because most American-sized cups get shoved in there and are too tight, and so when you pull it out, because of this rubber, it causes all that friction and pulls on it and basically breaks it. And so this whole console becomes cracked and gets damaged. So this plastic cracks sometimes on these, especially if you've messed with it. My auto tilt feature still works. The vertical movement of the steering wheel kind of works. The telescoping does not. I don't know if that's to disable or enable remote door locks. You can also access, I think this is to lock the trunk. So you can lock, push lock, key to unlock. Oh, so I just locked the trunk. The AC and all the temperature controls still work plenty well, including blowing out these rear vents, which is a cool feature for your gang members. People complain of the auto dimmer not working. Mine works fine. The button's a little weird. It's a little sensitive. The sunroof still works. I already showed the replacement of that, but the motor works, the track is fine. The seatbelt height adjust still works. Pretty neat. My memory seats do not work. Either that or I don't know how to set them. Yeah, I don't know. The window switch works for the driver's side only. And that's the master switch. The door lock still works. The other thing that happens is this wood grain, since it's dissimilar material to this other piece, comes off and becomes warped. Starts up right away just fine. So traction lights on. I have yet to diagnose that. I can probably pull codes. The outside temperature still works. I mean, everything on the gauge cluster still works. Now this brake level indicator is on because the previous owner did not want to put the proper sensor on. those buttons work. This whole dash piece is still in really nice shape. You can tell this car is just really well made because of how solid everything still feels. All the doors still have a really nice sound to closing them. All the handles just have a nice quality, well-built feel to them. My seat heaters do not work. It looks like they're switching on, but I left them on one day in the summer and I didn't even notice it, so I don't think they're working. The transmission is starting to shift a little hard. I did a transmission fluid service, which only got 2 quarts out, so I'm gonna do more, but it seemed like it helped temporarily. People have been suggesting transmission mounts. I'm gonna do a couple more fluid services and probably a flush just to see. Now, the power button, I believe, works occasionally. If I accidentally leave the power button on, I will notice it shifts differently. I usually leave it off because it is probably better for gas mileage, I would imagine. For acceleration, I don't feel like I feel a huge difference with the power button on, which leads me to question if it works. Now, since the traction light is on, I don't know if that would disable the power mode, just because the ECUs on these old cars are weird, and I don't know what Toyota does with their early logic. So, front defroster works. I mean, obviously it's just a vent, all the HVAC works. So the rear defroster might not work. However, that windshield has been replaced. I kind of tested it out when it got like cold and foggy, so we will see when it actually snows here in Colorado soon. From the back seats, the VIP area, all of these are still in good condition, although crunchy. The rear seats are in better condition than the front. All the lights work in both directions because it has this, which is a map light. And then when you open it, that light comes on. So, same deal with here. These peel off as well. Charter still works, and of course this vent still works, although that's cracked. But that was honestly my fault. I broke it. Alright, so with the hood open, you can see, you can hear the tapping noise. It's particularly bad over here. But, I mean, generally the engine runs pretty damn smooth for its age. I mean, other than the noisiness, a super common failure is the hood struts, so they barely hold the hood up anymore. For 240,000 miles, I'd say this is pretty clean. Now, I will show you the leaks underneath because it is in fact leaking. Really, all the fluids are in need of service. I think, generally speaking, everything underneath the hood is working. Granted, I have the track light on, so I think it's definitely a possibility that the power steering pump is going out. In the morning, I hear quite a whine, and sometimes it feels like I'm not getting the assist I should. If you smell that fluid, it is burnt. It at least needs to be changed, and the hood just fell on my head. So as you can see, it looks like it's probably coming out of the weep hole for that front crank. Seal, maybe a little bit on the oil pan. It does drip to the ground. I'm gonna let it ride. It's hard to tell now, but underneath here, the front suspension actually seems pretty good. And the transmission is dry, and really everything except that leak that you see is pretty good. You can see that underneath some of the trim pieces that protect the underside of the vehicle. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's supposed to be one that protects the engine entirely that are gone, and this is obviously hanging down. Ultimately, that's just going to come down to driver error. This car had chrome trim pieces around the fenders. It left this residue across. It's probably literally damaged paint. And unfortunately, in the bottom corner, it got rusted. So that's pretty unfortunate. It's only on this corner too. It was the last one I took off. I took it off, I saw that, and I cried. The chrome wheels, depending highly on where you live, are going to rot away. If you live in a place where it snows, there's going to be road salt that collects on the wheel that will, in fact, eat away at the wheel like this and take your chrome off. Now, of course, my car has hail damage, which is unfortunate, but any car is really subject to any sort of weather that may happen locally. the antenna has been broken off at some point. I'm not sure if that is something that happens over time or somebody just had a boo-boo. It's just like a little spot of paint missing. You can see all along the door there's a ton of scratching, probably caused by like dragging a backpack or something as they were getting out of the car. Of course, the door handle broke, which actually does not seem like an uncommon thing. There's been a few people who have needed door handles, and I think after time, people are just too rough with the handles and they break. Additionally, I think a big problem is, you know, when people with keyless entry, when people think they've unlocked their car, they just violently grab the door and rip at it, and if it's not unlocked, then it's just gonna yank on the door and the door's not gonna give. So my rear bumper's scratched. A part of the valence has been broken off. This exhaust tip is out of center. So I think someone hit something. The Lexus badge is a little faded. All around the paint on my particular example has all kinds of little scratches. There's also other little blemishes like rock chips that have now rusted, black parts of trim that are now faded away. Suspension issues are not uncommon on these cars as they are pretty heavy. So as they float down the road, they take a lot of road force. So the moral of the story is pretty straightforward. If you take care of anything, it will last. If you do not, it will not. The Lexus LS400 is a very reliable car. Even with as many problems as my particular example has, it's still pretty low in comparison to, say, for example, my S10. Which ended up being dead just before 200,000 miles. Again, take care of anything and it will last. This LS400 was certainly not babied, probably wasn't in the best of hands as it should have been, but life goes on. I was certainly not looking for a perfect car, and I didn't get one. At the end of the day, I only paid $1,300 for the car. I think, yeah, $1,300. And so all of these problems are okay. Now, as far as the reliability goes, even at 240,000 miles, I still expect it to give me a long period of functionality at least. So, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if any of those problems are common to your car. If you have any of the problems, leave a comment below, like, and if you want to see more, subscribe. Thank you for watching.